Chapter 5. Asakawa kept investigating the 4 victims' backgrounds whenever he had a free minute, but had so much work to do that he wasn't getting as far as he'd hoped. Before he knew it, a week had passed. It was a new month, and both August's rain-soaked humidity and September's summery heat became distant memories, pushed aside by the signs of deepening autumn. Nothing happened for a while. He'd been making a point of reading every inch of the local news pages, but without coming across anything remotely similar. Or was it just that something horrible was advancing, slowly but surely, where Asakawa couldn't see? But the more time elapsed, the more inclined he was to think that the 4 deaths were just coincidences, unconnected in any way. He hadn't seen Yoshino since then either. He had probably forgotten the whole thing, too. If he hadn't, he would have contacted Asakawa by now. Whenever his passion for the case showed signs of waning, Asakawa would take 4 cards out from his pocket and be reminded once again that it couldn't have been a coincidence. On the cards he'd written the deceased's names, addresses, and other pertinent information, and on the remaining space he planned to record their activities during the months of August and September, their upbringing, and anything else his research turned up. Card 1. Tomoko Oishi. Date of birth, October 21st, 1972. Keisei School for Girls, Senior, age 17. Address, 1-7 Motomachi Honmoku Naka Ward, Yokohama. Approximately 11 p.m. September 5th. Dies in kitchen on first floor of home. Parents away. Cause of death, sudden heart failure. Card 2. Shuichi Iwata. Date of birth, May 26, 1971. Eishin Preparatory Academy, first year, age 19. Address, 1-5-23 Nishi Nakanobu, Shinagawa Ward, Tokyo. 10:54 p.m., September 5th. Falls over and dies at intersection in front of Shinagawa Station. Cause of death, cardiac infarction. Card 3. Haruko Tsuji. Date of birth, January 12, 1973. Keisei School for Girls, Senior, age 17. Address, 5-19 Mori Isogo Ward, Yokohama. Late night, September 5th, or early next morning. Dies in car off Prefectural Road at foot of Mount Okusu. Cause of death, sudden heart failure. Card 4. Takahiko Nomi. Date of birth, December 4th, 1970. Eishin Preparatory Academy, second year, age 19. Address, 1-10-4 Uehara, Shibuya Ward, Tokyo. Late night, September 5th or early next morning. Dies with Haruko Tsuji in car at foot of Mount Okusu. Cause of death, sudden heart failure. Tomoko Oishi and Haruko Tsuji went to the same high school and were friends. Shuichi Iwata and Takahiko Nomi studied at the same prep school and were friends. This much had been clear prior to legwork, which indeed confirmed it. And from the simple fact that Tsuji and Nomi had gone for a drive together on Mount Okusu in Yokosuka on the night of September 5th, it was obvious that they were, if not quite lovers, at least fooling around. When he'd asked her friends, he'd heard the rumor that Tsuji had been dating a prep school guy from Tokyo. However, Asakawa still didn't know when or how they'd met. Naturally, he suspected that Oishi and Iwata were going out, but he couldn't find anything to back this up. It was equally possible that Oishi and Iwata had never even seen each other. In which case, what was there to link these four? They seemed far too closely related for this unknown being to have picked them totally at random. Maybe there was some secret that only the 4 of them knew, and they'd been killed for it. Asakawa tried out a more scientific explanation with himself. Perhaps the four of them had been in the same place at the same time, and all four had been infected with a virus that attacks the heart. Hey now, Asakawa shook his head as he walked. A virus that causes sudden heart failure? Come on. He climbed the stairs, muttering to himself, a virus, a virus. Indeed, he should start out with attempts at scientific explanation. Well, suppose there was a virus that caused heart attacks. At least it was a little more realistic than imagining that something supernatural was behind it all. It seemed less likely to get him laughed at. Even if such a virus hadn't yet been discovered on Earth, maybe it had just recently fallen to Earth inside a meteor. Or maybe it had been developed as a biological weapon and had somehow escaped. You couldn't rule out the possibility. Sure, he'd try thinking of it as a kind of virus for a while. Not that this would satisfy all his doubts. Why had they all died with looks of astonishment on their faces? Why had Tsuji and Nomi died on opposite sides of that small car, as if they were trying to get away from each other? Why hadn't the autopsies revealed anything? The possibility of an escaped germ weapon could at least answer the third question. There would have been a gag order. If he were to pursue this hypothesis further, he could deduce that the fact that there hadn't been any other victims yet meant that the virus was not airborne. It was either bloodborne, like AIDS, or was fairly non-contagious. But more importantly, where had these four picked it up? He'd have to go back and sift through their activities in August and September again and look for places and times they had in common. Since the participants' mouths had been shut permanently, it wouldn't be easy. If their meeting had been a secret among the four of them, something neither parents nor friends knew about, then how was he to ferret it out? But he was sure that these four kids had some time, some place, some thing in common. Sitting down at his word processor, Asakawa chased the unknown virus from his thoughts. He needed to get out the notes he'd just taken, to sum up the contents of the cassette he'd made. He had to get this article finished today. Tomorrow, Sunday, he and his wife Shizu were going to visit her sister, Yoshimi Oishi. He wanted to see with his own eyes the spot where Tomoko had died, to feel on his own flesh whatever air still lingered. His wife had agreed to go to Honmoku to console her bereaved older sister. She had no inkling of her husband's true motives. Asakawa started pounding the keys of the word processor before he'd come up with a decent outline.